If you are being provoked, how can you prevent yourself from losing your cool? How can you be calm in the face of provocation? How can you maintain your composure even when something is seriously annoying you? You know, the funny thing about this topic is, if there is anybody that needs an answer to this, I'm the one. It's something that for a long time, I've tried to figure out how to do it. It's something that I don't know how to do, especially when I'm really upset. And I know that there are so many of us that find it very difficult to do. This virtue that is very important in our spiritual work. But I've seen that there are people that know how to do it. It doesn't matter the level of annoyance, the level of upset. It doesn't matter how provoked they are. You cannot get them to lose their composure over the situation. And really, I've taken interest in that because as an awakened spirit, when you are provoked, something annoys you, something upsets you, you get into an argument, you get into a quarrel, what happens to you is that after the whole scenario is done, the whole shouting, the whole exchanging of words, the whole argument is done, the other person goes their way, feeling okay. But you, who is on a spiritual growth journey, you will not be okay again after that situation. The other person might be cool, living their life, but for you, something has gone wrong. You're going to continue to feel the effects even after that day. Sometimes it may take days or weeks before you start to feel normal again. In my own case, anytime I make the mistake of allowing myself to get into a heated argument with someone, it takes me more than a week, sometimes up to 2 weeks, before I start to feel myself again. So when we will know that we will suffer these effects after engaging in it, how come we still allow ourselves to engage in it? So I started to talk to a lot of people who I have seen that are able to do this thing. And I was able to gather a few points. So the first point is avoid it. That is the first thing you can do. As much as possible, avoid provocative situations. Avoid any situation that will lead to an argument. I know sometimes we can't help it. Some of us are partnered up with people that any little conversation becomes heated. Any little discussion gets into an argument. So because you know that these arguments are not helpful to your spiritual state, it drains you of the energy you have spiritually. It just scatters your spiritual composure. So one of the ways you can start to help yourself, if you have someone around you who always gets argumentative with topics, try to avoid discussing heated topics with this person. I used to make this mistake a lot of times. When I'm having a conversation with someone and the person is saying something that I don't agree with, I find myself almost like I feel obliged to let the person see my point of view. But with time, I've come to realize that it's futile. Honestly, it's just a waste of energy. It doesn't matter. People don't have to see your point of view. And it's okay. So I've really learned now that when you're having a conversation with someone, like I'm putting on this top, and you tell me that this top is white, instead of me to continue trying to prove to you that this top is black, I can just agree. I can just agree. Okay, if you say it's white, it doesn't change the fact that it's black. So the first way to avoid any argument is just to agree. Most of the time, a lot of the things that we drag, nobody is going to give us any award. There is actually nothing. There is no prize to be won for proving that your own point is correct. Apart from just probably an ego trip for you that, wow, yes, you have showed this person that you're right. Recently, I got into an argument with someone, and just as I was about to go back into my mode of trying to prove my point, I asked myself, so what if I agree with what this person is saying now? Then what will happen? Does it prevent me from still believing what I believe? No. Does it prevent me from going out tomorrow and doing it the same way that I want to do it? No. So why am I arguing? At the end of the day, the person might not even see your point. No matter how you try your best to put it to them, they might not agree with it, and it will just lead to unnecessary battle. So as much as possible, let's use the agreement method to avoid it. If you can, topics that you know that are very difficult for you to agree on with the person, or the person to agree on with you, you can avoid it if possible. Decide not to discuss that topic. Just let it be. It's not everything that needs to be discussed. Just let it be. And if you're going to discuss certain topics, mind you that if it starts getting too heated, or your perspectives are not matching, are not merging, you can just agree. Okay, agree to that person's point. It doesn't change your own mind. At first, I used to think that if I then agree with your point, in my head, I feel like, doesn't it make me weak? Does it mean I cannot argue my own point? Or am I just agreeing with your own? That's how I used to see it. And then it used to put me in a lot of arguments with people trying to prove my point. So it just doesn't, all those things are just spiritually draining unnecessarily. So whatever you say, I can just agree with you that, okay, no problem. It doesn't still change my mind. And what have I gained? I have gained peace of mind. I have gained maintenance of my spiritual status, maintenance of my spiritual composure within. I don't have to involve in a battle and end up putting myself in a situation that will hurt me spiritually. Secondly, pray. To pray and ask the Lord to give you wisdom, to give you discernment, to deal with this provocative situation that is in front of you right now. To please bridle your tongue so that whatever you have to respond will be exuding the wisdom of the Almighty. In the case where you're not able to avoid these hot arguments, these quarrels that come out of discussions, because most times a lot of things that get us upset, a lot of things that cause quarrels in our homes, that cause arguments, are things that we couldn't really avoid getting involved in them. There are some topics you just can't avoid. They might not be very easy topics to discuss, but they might need to be discussed. So in a situation where you cannot avoid discussing a topic, or there are also situations where it comes to you, you probably didn't start it, you're probably on your own, and somebody is bringing a topic, or somebody is doing something that ends up provoking you. It's not something you premeditated, you didn't plan it, it just happened. Then how do you move on? So when we just respond to the situation that we are seeing in front of us, we're most likely going to make a mistake. We're most likely going to regret our actions later. So even though it's not easy, because I have found myself in situations where it's only after the fact I start to realize that I could have just used that 1 second to pray and ask the Lord to give me strength to maintain myself. But in that heated moment, when someone just does something annoying in front of you, or just says something so annoying, someone just provokes you, if you can take even just a millisecond, half of a second, to just say a quick prayer, it helps a lot. At the end of the day, when you look back, you'll be surprised at your own reaction. The way you were able to maintain composure, the way you were able to respond very maturely at that situation, everybody around will be marveled. But what happens is that most times in the face of that provocation, we actually forget the right things to do, and we just act out of emotions. We just react by default, and then we start doing a lot of wrong things. So let's know today that you can take a second while someone is saying something provocative to you, while someone is doing something very annoying. You can take a second and say a prayer and ask the Lord to give you the strength to act out of his wisdom. That's number 3. You can remain silent and just don't say anything. This one is very difficult, but it also works. When you are in a provocative situation, in the midst of an argument, in the midst of a quarrel, and the person is just not hearing you, just not getting your point, probably saying a lot of things that's even getting you more upset. 99% of the time, when we get involved in an argument, what we regret most after the fact, after the whole thing is done, is what we said to the other person. The things we said out of that anger. Because what happens in such situations is that this person is saying things that annoy you. What you're going to try to do in return is say things that will annoy the person as well. So you find yourself thinking of what are the most annoying things you can say to this person right now that will really hit them, the way the ones they've said to you hit you. These are the things that give you pain later as an awakened spirit after the fact. And you realize that what you have just done is you have contributed to another person's pain. Instead of you, as a light helper, somebody who is supposed to help people come close to the light, you have contributed to pushing somebody away from the light, even towards the darkness, by the negative things you have said to this person, which of course is going to put that person in a more negative situation. And you know that once someone is in a negative situation, it's an invitation to the darkness to come close. Then you see that person. If that person was thinking one bad thought, they will help the person and multiply the bad thoughts. Then the person will now be thinking more bad thoughts. So what you have done is you have done the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. By engaging in that argument, saying those negative things to each other, what you have done is that you have pushed that person closer to the darkness instead of the opposite direction. So that is why it's important that you try your best not to say anything. You will find yourself pushed a lot to say back. You keep reminding yourself that whatever you say now, you're still going to regret it later. Unless you're not serious about your work with God. Otherwise, you're still going to regret it later. It's still going to hit you. You're still going to feel the effect. You're probably not going to sleep well for a couple of nights because of whatever it is that you do right now. So one of the ways you can get that unavoidable situation to come to an end faster is to just be quiet. So number 4, tune out. Tune out. If you're able to remain silent while someone is ranting and raving, saying all sorts of things, in order for you not to break that silence, because you're going to be hearing what the other person is saying, and it will get to a point you want to say back because you're not dumb. You can talk too, and you also want to show that person that maybe you're not the only one that has mouth to talk. That's how it feels, right? One of the ways you can prevent yourself from breaking that silence is to tune out. In your head, you just stop listening to what the person is saying and get yourself to start thinking something else. Look for any scenario, anything at all that probably makes you happier and start thinking about that. You can get your earpod, put it in your ear, put music and put it in the highest volume. If possible, you sing along to the song so that you don't even hear the things again that are being said, and just let the other person go on. You know, these things are not easy to do. Quite all right, but there are steps that work because people have been using it and it works for them. What you're trying to do is to maintain your own calm spiritual energy, not to have somebody rouse you up and get you drained of your own spiritual energy, to contain your own spiritual energy. That's what you're trying to do. Because once you start reacting, what you're doing is you're expending energy, and spiritual energy is going out of you without you knowing. It's only after the fact you're going to start feeling spiritually drained and weak and angry with yourself and regretful. It's not worth it. So the 5th one, take it as a compliment. So what you can do is take whatever they're saying as a compliment. And so someone is ranting and raving, rambling off about you and what. When they are done, you should say thank you. Okay, thank you. I've heard you. Thank you. It's funny because even the person is not giving you a compliment, but the fact that you responded to it as if it's a compliment is going to confuse that person. And the person is not going to know the next thing to say again. The person will probably be expecting a counter reaction from you, something similar to what they did. But with the way you reacted, the person will not even know what to do again. All this require a lot of composure, a lot of maturity. But these are the steps you need as an awakened spirit in your growth journey to be able to master the art of relating with people despite their own spiritual state without having your own spiritual composure disturbed. So the 6th one, which is the final one, distance yourself from the scene of provocation. At the end of the day, if you've tried all these techniques to deal with a provocative situation and it doesn't work, one sure way that works is what? Distance. Take yourself away from the scene of provocation. Take a walk. Drive out, take a stroll, give the other person time to calm down, move away, distance yourself from that situation as quickly as possible. So know you that if a situation gets too heated, you can just take a walk. So let's go over all that we have learned now, so that next time you find yourself in a provocative situation, you don't just react like you used to anymore. You don't just move on ahead and do the same things you have been doing anymore. This time around, we are living life consciously. Remember, we are living intentionally. We're trying to consciously make decisions that will help us be on the right track with God. Consciously, and not just reacting to things emotionally, just reacting unconsciously. We're not going to live life like that anymore. So once you find yourself in a provocative situation, as much as possible, avoid it. Don't get involved. Don't engage. In a situation where you cannot avoid it and you find out that you have to engage, say a short prayer. Just say a brief prayer and ask the Lord for strength, for wisdom, for you to be able to act in a way that is pleasing to Him in that situation. You can remain silent. You can be quiet while the person says anything that they want to say or do anything that they want to do. If you cannot continue to be quiet, you can tune out. Tune that person out of your head. Tune what they're saying out of your head. Think of something else. You can put music in your ear. Take yourself somewhere else in your head so that you don't have to keep hearing what they're saying, and also so that you don't have to respond. You can take it as a compliment. Whatever it is they say, decide to take it as a positive and move on. At the end of the day, if all doesn't work, distance yourself. Keep your distance away and continue to maintain your composure. These are proven methods that work. It gets you out of unnecessary provocative situation and keeps your own spiritual energy secure and maintained.